Welcome to the Rick Smith Show. We don't take orders from some boardroom, and we don't do focus groups or talking points. We don't work for them, and we never will. I'm Rick Smith, and I work for you. Join us daily at thericksmithshow.com and download the podcast and never miss a minute.
It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here. Today on the big program, lots to get to, lots to talk about. Going to start with the gun thing. Again, I'm in this spot where we cannot have a rational conversation. Approached by someone saying, "You just want to grab my guns." And no, don't want to grab your guns. No, and interesting. This person, made the, cars kill people too. And I go, interesting. You make that analogy. Interesting. You say that because we register our cars. We test people to make sure that they're somewhat proficient in operating those cars. We insure those cars. There's a whole lot of things. We regulate those things. And it was one of those moments where he knew he stepped in a giant pile of proverbial, debate stuff, because he didn't have an answer for it. Because, slippery slope, we can't do any of that stuff. We can't have common sense conversations while claiming to have common sense conversations while changing the subject. Because everything that we've been seeing from our Republican friends have been changing the subject. Yes, we have all of these dead kids now. For years now, this is just, it's become part of Americana. And we can't have conversations. But what we do is we do a lot of finger pointing, a lot of misdirection, a lot of incredible stuff. For instance, and I'm stuck with this moment. Because these are the same people who are now claiming we should be arming our teachers again, because there's this weird kind of vacillating going on. We need to get our teachers to be packing heat. In fact, Newt Gingrich was on TV with that crazy woman, Ingram, saying we should pay those teachers $500 a month. I'm going, $500 a month? That's not even to cover their student loans. You're going to pay them $500 a month to carry a gun, but you're not going to let them decide which books your kids can read? They're not capable of, we're going to give them a deadly weapon to walk around your children with. But no, you're not. No, the book mouse. No, I don't think you can read that. No, I'm sorry. That's bad. How insane are these people? And it's not surprising. Axios did a story today that, that teachers are leaving the profession in Des Moines, Iowa. And you go, Des Moines? Why would people be leaving, the metro school district? I didn't even know Des Moines was a metro area. Evidently it is for our friends in Des Moines. More than 500 teachers are resigning. And this is not going to be just isolated to Des Moines, but they focused on Des Moines for this one example. And the person that they talked to is like, look, resignations have been going up, but this is kind of the peak of it, or at least they're hoping. The one teacher, a social studies teacher they talked to said, look, there's a couple reasons. Two main reasons. All the political stuff is now bled into the classroom. Tired of it. It's deteriorated morale. We're tired of the parents. We're tired of, all being the ones taking all the arrows being slung at. Tired of that. I got to imagine that's where they are. And, look, there are better opportunities. There are other jobs out there making better money. And that passion has just been drained out of them. He tells this story about how, prior to the CRT era, he would use Dylan Roof, the murderer who killed people who he prayed with. And he tied that with the Charlottesville March to show, the American experience for minorities and white nationalism and all that. And crazy backlash, he claims. Just nuts. And parents calling for his resignation. And congratulations, they got it because he's leaving. And he's like, look, this culture war du jour, he says, I think it's just too much. And teachers are kind of tired of being on the front lines of it. And I've been saying this is coming for a while. And understand, the right is thrilled with this. Mission accomplished. It's why they do what they're doing. It's why all of the attacks are slung at them. So good people will throw up their hands and go away. And then we can bring in, well, the ideologues, which is why in my state, you have my state representative who's very proud. She's proud as punch that they've got unqualified substitutes coming in to substitute when they can't find qualified teachers. So we can just throw any Tom, Dick, or Harry in front of the classroom as long as they're the right kind. It's frightening. But we're in this weird kind of moment. And look, the person who approached me, I tried to have a very, civil conversation with. But angry, really thought I wanted to grab his guns. And I'm like, no. I think we should regulate them. I think, the Constitution is clear. Well-regulated militia. Well-regulated. Well-regulated. I know we're in the era of, no, we can't regulate anything. No, bad. Bad. I know we're there. But, that whole idea, he brought it up, the car thing. You get a driver's license. You've got insurance. It's tested. The fact that in 32 states you can literally carry a gun and not know how to fire it is frightening to me. And what's interesting is you look at some of the stories now coming out of this most recent shooting, and we've seen this in others. Parkland was another example where the people who were there with the gun didn't respond in a timely enough fashion for some. In Parkland, you had the one resource officer, I think he was a sheriff, who didn't enter the building for an X amount of period of time. I don't remember how long it was, but he got skewered. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, eventually ended up resigning or being fired or something. I think he ended up resigning. And I look at this and I go, this is one of those moments where we're just not having the right conversations. And I look at, Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz was being interviewed by a guy named Mark Stone of Sky News. And this American journalists, maybe how we have to start handling politicians and asking real questions. Stone asked simply, is this the moment to reform gun laws? And Cruz was like, it's easy to go to politics. And Stone goes, but it's important. It's at the heart of the issue. Cruz says, I get that is where the media likes to go, the proposals from Democrats and the media is inevitably when some violent psychopath murders people. And Stone goes, a violent psychopath who's able to get a weapon so easily, an 18-year-old with 2 AR-15s. But why does this only happen in your country? He said, I really think that's what many people around the world cannot fathom. Why only in America? Why is this American exceptionalism so awful? And this made Cruz lose his mind. He tries to walk away and look, he does this, you've got your political agenda, God love you. And he tries to storm off. And Stone goes, whoa, Senator, I just want to understand why you don't think the gun is the problem. And a woman chimes in. She goes, why is this just an American problem? And, Stone, he's like, sir, this is an American problem. What do you say? And angrily, Cruz turns around. Why is it that people come from all over the world to America? Because it's the freest, most prosperous, safest country on earth. Stop being a propagandist. And I'm going, hold on. Freest? Nah. John Stossel did a piece back in 2018, titled "America Isn't Free." In fact, America was, according to him, 17th. The Cato Institute this past year said we're 15th, moved up 2 notches because of Donald Trump's deregulation. Because again, to them, freedom is how much rich people can steal from our system. But I digress. Not the freest. They say Switzerland freest, but good. Don't get past the talking point and the misdirection. The most prosperous, there's some argument there depending on where you are socioeconomically. If you're the rich people, oh yeah, most prosperous. If you're a working class stiff, questionable. But the safest claim is the interesting one. That's the one that I found quite interesting because the U.S. has a crime rate, according to the most recent statistics, of something like 46.7 per 100,000 per capita number. This is this number. Whereas the safest country in the world with the lowest crime rate would be Qatar at 9.3. And then the United Arab Emirates, Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong, the country of Georgia, not the state, Armenia, Switzerland, Oman. Those are all just around 20. We're literally more than double that. And to say that we're the freest, it's that kind of jingoism that they love to throw. We're number one. That's the default, and that's the distraction. Because the reality is that reporter was asking very real questions. Why aren't you focusing on the gun? Why aren't you talking about that issue? Why can't you focus on that? And we can't. We can't talk about what's really going on in a comprehensive way. No, it's the door. It's the doors. The door was unlocked. If the door had been locked, the guy probably would have just he turned around and gone home. Yeah, sure, he shot Granny. Yeah, he crashed the car, shot at a couple people in the park. Yeah, but if that door had been locked, he'd have turned around. No, he wouldn't have shot through it. He wouldn't have shot through a window and climbed through or done something. No, he would have just turned around and given up. Yeah, of course. We can't have a comprehensive conversation around, should we have better systems of making sure doors are locked? Sure, absolutely. That's part of the conversation. Is it the only one? Should we have build buildings with no windows and doors and have, secret, passageways? I don't think anyone's for that. But you listen to Cruz, this is the ideas. Because they want to talk about anything but the guns. And I look at Herschel Walker. I still don't know what Herschel Walker was saying. But I'm going to play the clip. He was on Fox News, and please, Georgia, save us 6 years of this guy in the U.S. Senate. But this is Herschel Walker's response to, what we should do with the... Here it is.
See, that is the person wielding that weapon. Cain killed Abel. And that's the problem that we have. And I said, what we need to do is look into how we can stop those things. He talked about doing a disinformation. What about getting a department that can look at young men that's looking at women that's looking at just social media? What about doing that, looking into things like that, and we can stop that way? But yet they want to just continue to talk about taking away your constitutional rights. And I think there's more things we need to look into. This has been happening for years, and the way we stop it by putting money into the mental health field, by putting money into other departments rather than departments that want to take away your rights.
I don't really know what to gather out of that word salad, other than I guess he wants to monitor people's social media, young men. He wants to monitor. He wants to profile young men looking at women, looking at social media, but doesn't want to take people's rights away. I don't understand. I don't think he does either. But hey, it's an idea, right? I know it's not the gun, because the gun doesn't kill people. People kill people. I get it. This is the weird world we're in. Now, he did try and get the mock of Biden's disinformation department, which you got to mock on a certain level. He tried to get that in, and he tried to hit the right-wing talking points. And give him credit, he's trying. But the idea that we're going to have a government overlooking this stuff, can we have a conversation around that? And would conservatives be in favor of that? I find it interesting that he's bringing it up. Now, I go back to my conversation with the person who claims I want to take their guns. He's very angry. The whole, from my cold dead hands. And I looked to Florida State Representative Randy Fine, who evidently tweeted out that, quote, I have news for the embarrassment that claims to be our president. He is our president. He won, actually. Try to take our guns and you'll learn why the Second Amendment was written in the first place. Yeah, again, Randy, I think you need help. These are the kind of people that shouldn't have a gun. Now, for me, here's the other part of this, and this is the angering part of all this. We keep hearing these frames of, if we just had a good guy with a gun there. And this is the teacher stuff. If we just give those teachers guns, we'll have a good guy with a gun there. Understand, guns don't give you bravery. Guns don't automatically solve the problem, because look what we're finding out about what's going on there. The police stayed outside while children were being killed. They didn't rush right in. And they actually had done some training around school shooting. They actually had done some, didn't seem to help much. And we find out that the only training that seemed to work was the murderer was trained as a child on how to use the lock system that was meant to keep the shooter out to actually keep the police out. We found that out. But I'm going to push back again on this idea of the good guy with a gun. Because, this is one of these things, and I haven't said this before, but I've always believed this. Every person that I know that carries a gun is a coward. Because they do it because they're afraid of everything. They're afraid MS-13's around every corner. They're afraid that, something's going to happen. They don't know what. They're afraid of the world. They've got fear in their heart and in their minds. Everything is going to get them. Is that the person you want guarding your children? Is that the good guy with your gun? Or they're the Rambo folks. I'm going to show them. And I go back to the guy I remember, telling that pornographic story I shared the other day. How he got this new gun and he couldn't wait to use it on somebody. And in the most X-rated detail. Fantasizing about doing horrible things to other people. Now look, do I understand that people use guns as tools to go hunting and target practicing and for sport? Absolutely. But this idea that I got to be dependent on the safety of my children for their lives based on somebody, it's crazy. Now, I'm asking my state representative, and I'm going to ask, her name's Barb Gleim here in my area. I'm a state representative Gleim, and my Congressman Scott Perry. I'm asking them both when they go to work tomorrow, since they're not going to do anything on the gun issue, I'm asking them to put forth legislation to issue all children body armor. Because clearly we're not going to do anything to actually protect them. So if we can do nothing, since we seem to do a lot of stuff that is all about corporate America, since we can only do things to help the military-industrial complex, this is a double win. We're going to get every child bulletproof vests. We're going to get them shields. We're going to fully outfit them. Did you ever see the movie The Christmas Story? The little kid who's dressed up for winter and he's waddling down the road. We're going to do that with body armor, because clearly we're not going to protect our children. Clearly we're not going to help them. Because, again, this cycle, we're going to have outrage. We're going to have the thoughts and prayers. We're going to have the media frenzy. We're going to have the discussion on, what can we do? And then we're going to throw our hands up and go, there's nothing we can do. Because, right now you've got Mitch McConnell, who has given some blessing. They've given some blessing that, we're going to get something done. We're going to a bipartisan solution. We're going to do something. Hold your breath not. Nothing will get done that matters. And the fact that we had to get Mitch McConnell's blessing shows you how broken our system is. The fact that you have a senator from North Dakota going, well, and being honest, and I give him credit, he's honest. The reason that he can't get anything done and the reason he's not going to vote for any significant gun reform is because he believes he's going to get thrown out of office. That's it. It's all about the votes. It's not about doing what's right. It's not about being right in the right moment. It's not about doing the right thing. It's not about protecting your kids. I don't care about that. That's so far down on the list. So I think my bulletproof vest idea, I think this is it. I think this is the most we're going to be able to accomplish. I think this is the best we can do. Because we're not going to mandate that guns are regulated. We're not going to mandate that people get trained. We're not going to mandate that they're registered. We're not going to mandate that we know who has them. We're not going to have red flag laws. We're not going to do any of those things that a functional nation would do. We're not going to have the conversation around on how we have a comprehensive way forward because we're just not that country. Everybody has their direct focus and their blinders on this is the only path. Ted Cruz, simply doors. Evidently, he's focused on doors and windows. Maybe he's got a contract with an installer somewhere. Maybe that's who funds his campaigns. I don't know. But until we can actually have a lucid conversation, maybe we can go back to the 80s and dig up some Republicans from back then who have some sane, rational thoughts. I don't know that we get anywhere because this script keeps playing out day after day after day. We keep seeing this stuff. And while these school shootings are horrible and tragic, and they absolutely are, we still seeing murder rates across this country because it's the guns. It's the guns. And I know, but Rick, good law-abiding citizens, good law-abiding gun owners, they are until they aren't. And this is my frustration in all of this. How much longer do you wait? How long does this go? How much do you put up with? And then how many thoughts and prayers can you put out there? And what does it do to our society? Does it continue to tear us apart? I fear for my kids when they go to school. I fear for them in society. When I think back to, when I was a kid growing up in the projects, I've seen horrible things, but it wasn't as prevalent as we're seeing now. Now, maybe it's the media culture. Or maybe it was we didn't have the availability, such easy availability. Yeah, there were gang fights and people hit each other with things. But the fact that we've got such gun violence, and it is unique to this country. We are exceptional. And the question is are you happy with that exceptionalism? Is this what we want to be exceptional for? And is there a way forward? That's the question. And do you think our political leaders have the courage or the wherewithal to do anything about it? I sadly do not. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. This clearly not going to go away anytime soon. Well, it will. I'm expecting a couple of days. And then the next one. And we'll have to pick it up again then. Going to take a quick break right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1937. That was the day the Steelworkers Organizing Committee, or SWOC, called a nationwide strike against 3 of the 4 little steel companies, Republic, Inland, and Youngstown Sheet and Tube. The drive to organize Little Steel came on the heels of an historic agreement with U.S. Steel and J&L earlier in the year. In his book, The Last Great Strike, legal scholar Ahmed White points out that SWAC leaders established a three-pronged strategy in their organizing efforts: to break down racial and ethnic diversities among workers, to use the Wagner Act and newly formed NLRB to their advantage whenever possible, and to take over company unions where they existed. They hoped Little Steel would follow earlier precedent, but mill owners wouldn't budge on union recognition. Firing of organizers intensified and lockouts began. Sheriff's departments began the swearing in of deputies. Republic and Youngstown Sheet and Tube started shipping and stockpiling munitions, including machine guns and tear gas, to mills throughout the Midwest and Northeast. Scattered walkouts and wildcats began throughout the latter part of May as SWAC continued to demand recognition and first contracts. And on this day, SWAC delegates from the Little Steel locals met in a Youngstown War Council to demand a strike. The strike began late that evening with the shift change at 11 p.m. The mills were shut down tight. Pitched battles between strikers, scabs, and police continued throughout the summer, with hundreds arrested. Anti-union violence would explode with the Memorial Day massacre in South Chicago and the Women's Massacre in Youngstown the following month. After 5 months, the strike collapsed. It would take until 1942 before recognition was finally won. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
Right before our eyes, an invaluable American species is fast disappearing from view. Cartoonus americanus. These are newspaper cartoonists who've long delighted readers and infuriated power elites. And there's nothing natural about their sudden decline. It's not the result of a dwindling talent pool, and certainly not due to a lack of political targets. Rather, what's happening is that their media habitat is being intentionally destroyed. Around the start of the 20th century, some 2,000 newspapers featured their own full-time cartoonists. But in just the last decade, those healthy media environments have shriveled. So now, only a couple of dozen newspapers have these vibrant artistic journalists on staff. One major reason is that most U.S. papers have been gobbled up by profiteering hedge funds that have merged, purged, and plundered these essential local sources of news and democratic discourse. The overriding interest of these Wall Street owners is to cash out a paper's financial assets and haul off the booty to boost their personal wealth. Journalism and democracy be damned. Thus, they view cartoonists as a paycheck that can be easily diverted into their corporate pockets, dismissing the fact that enjoying good local cartoonists ranks as one of the top reasons people give for buying the paper. Note that this mass extermination is not old-school media censorship, but sleight-of-hand money censorship by the new monopolistic order of newspapering. Political cartoonists are still free to express any opinion they want, but the Wall Street system locks them out of their primary marketplace. Censorship is ugly, but eliminating paychecks, well, that's just business. This is Jim Hightower saying, yet these freewheeling spirits of the cartooning craft are inventing new ways to connect with America's strong demand for their fun and important work. To connect with them, go to editorialcartoonist.com.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So you gotta love what's going on out in Colorado. I still have hope that the Democrats aren't going to take the beating that the mainstream media keeps saying that they're going to take, simply because the Republicans are losing their freaking minds. I look at this gubernatorial candidate, Greg Lopez, who has said that, hey, there won't be none of those non-Christian folks with me. He said, no Jews, no Muslims, no atheists. That's their policy when he's going to select a lieutenant governor. Christians only. And this is the scary part of where the Republican Party is taking us. And it's just not Colorado. You hear this kind of rhetoric right here in my state of Pennsylvania. You hear it all across the country. These people have kind of losing their flipping minds. And the more they talk, hopefully the more people will listen and find out who they are. And here to share some thoughts on what the possibilities of well, in November are going to be. I've asked Joe Trippi to come talk with us. Joe is the founder of Level Communications. He's a senior advisor over the Lincoln Project, and his latest project, defending democracy, over at Join the Union. You want to check this stuff out, jointheunion.us. Joe, thanks for taking time for us.
Oh, no. Happy to be with you, Rick.
So, I'm looking at this guy in Colorado running for governor, and like the guy in my state, Benito Mastriano. And I don't know if you can get much more extreme. And look, this is where the Republican Party has been going for a very long time. But I'm hoping the rest of the country goes, no, we're not there. I'm hoping that's the reality.
Well, that's one of the reasons I think that the Democrats have a much better chance in November than the pundits and the conventional wisdom keep pointing to, because in the end, and I've said this to you before on your show, that in the end, this is going to be a choice. And right now they tend to be, it looks like they're nominating crazy as a choice. And they've done this before in the past. In 2010 they did it in a number of Senate races that cost them a majority in the Senate that they should have won, because they had people saying things like legitimate rape, and just incredible, like insane things in 2010 that cost them those seats. That's the same thing happening now, I think, in Colorado. I think in Herschel Walker in Georgia. Georgia, I mean, by all rights, in a midterm election, that should be a very difficult place for Warnock to win re-election. However, I think against Herschel Walker, he has a great chance, and I think will win. So I think that this is, and I also think, Rick, that the other thing, I mean, you point to how extreme and crazy they've gotten. These are just sort of the gubernatorial and Senate candidates that you and I are talking about. When you get down to some of these House races where they're nominated, I mean, like literally QAnon nominees. I mean, card-carrying members of the conspiracy cult bragging that they're members of QAnon who've won their nomination or looked like they're going to, in some of the states that haven't held them yet. Some of these places make Marjorie Taylor Greene look sane, So I really do think in the end, once people focus not on generic D or generic R, they asked that in the poll, but who the real choices are, much like Trump versus Biden was a choice. And you're going to talk about Biden being old and all that other stuff, but in the end, with that choice, they picked Biden. I think the same thing is going to happen when they see crazy versus the Democrats that we're nominating out there, like Tim Ryan, like Fetterman and others.
No, perfect choice, perfect example. I look at these Q folks, and compare them to the Tea Party of just a couple of years ago, and look, the Tea Party look like Girl Scouts now. Yeah,
and that's who lost them the Senate in 2010. They had the witch in Delaware.
Yeah, Christine O'Donnell.
Christine O'Donnell. She lost. Again, I think it's Sharon Engel in Nevada, and then Aiken in Missouri with his legitimate rape quotes that just, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Those were sane candidates compared to who they're nominating this time around. So I really do think in the end that you're going to see a lot more, a lot of, once that contrast and choice is clear, I think we're going to pick up seats in the Senate, and I think we're going to hold the House. I know that's people that say that's crazy, but I really do think it's going to happen. If you look at the issues that are coming around, I mean, we just had another tragedy, another pile of dead kids because we can't seem to get anything done. And the responses that we're seeing coming out of people like Herschel Walker of we should watch young men watching women watching. I don't even know what he was saying. Ted Cruz, no, we should have one door. It's the doors, because we don't have doors. Like all these other countries out there don't have doors. I mean, they've got only one door, must be, because they don't have any problems with this stuff. It's not the doors. It's not it. And the crazier one for me is let's arm teachers. Like, so we got a situation in Texas where police officers, trained police officers, took an hour because of the threat of a guy with an AR-15. Took an hour to go in, or whatever. We'll find out what the facts are there, but it doesn't seem like like they went in very quickly. But a teacher with like a Glock, I guess, is going to be able to take out a guy with armor and an AR-15. It makes absolutely zero sense. And anybody, by the way, anybody who owns a gun, who understands gun safety, who's a gun owner, a hunter, knows how ridiculous that is, that a teacher with a handgun could keep children safe against somebody with body armor and an AR-15. That's crazy.
Yeah.
The problem is there are 15 million AR-15s in this country. And that's just a small number compared to the number of guns out there. But just getting the AR-15, banning assault weapons, red flag laws, backgrounds, universal background checks. Those three things. It's not a lot, but those three things would actually be doing something. And what I think the Senate needs to do is put one after the other, all three of those on the floor, let the Republicans vote them down, and then tell people again, you've got a choice. These are all things that the American people, by large measures, 80, 90% favor, but it's the Republicans that will stop it from even getting to the floor. Schumer should put them on the floor, put those votes there, take action. Even if it can't be done, then make them pay for that vote.
No, I'm right there with you. But to me, one of the other most ludicrous, I think the most ludicrous part, I mean, your argument is spot on, and I agree. To me, the most ludicrous part of this is we're going to give teachers guns.
Right.
But it was just a week ago we were saying there were pedophiles and groomers, and we couldn't trust them to decide which books our kids read. But we're going to give them a deadly weapon to be in the front of the classroom. But no, we can't have mouse. No, can't have that.
No, this is the whole thing, Rick. You put your thing right on it. This is all about what, the outrage machine generating outrage. So it's the outrage of we can't trust them, they're grooming our kids. Next, it's the outrage, that we should give them the guns, and they'll keep our kids safe. It doesn't matter that it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't matter that the outrages are diametrically opposed. It's just that outrage, that fear, that constant anxiety and chaos that they're generating. And I think people are having, are starting to have enough of it.
Yeah, I mean, this has got to be one of those issues that is front and center. You're listening to the Rick Smith Show here with Joe Trippi, founder of Lever Communication, senior advisor over at the Lincoln Project. Also, check out his most recent project, the Join the Union Project, Defending Democracy, jointheunion.us, their website. Also, grab his podcast, The Joe Trippi Show. You can find that wherever you grab your podcasts. From iTunes to iHeart, Podbean, Stitcher, all those, I'm sure they're in the same places that we are. Now, again, talking about extremes in political issues, the abortion issue again, Oklahoma
right.
just, I guess, we're outlawing everything. And people said, Rick, you're wrong. They're not going to come after contraception. They're not going to come after Plan B. Well, looks like they kind of are. And the more we go down this road, the more it seems like Republicans are trying to repeal the 20th century. I can't imagine that that's going to be overly popular with the vast majority of people. Now, I'm sure some on the extreme zealot religious right are all tingly in the panties. But for the majority of us, not so much.
No, and like you see, look, I tell you, I've looked at a lot of focus groups where really, I mean, Republican pro-life women have a lot of angst about repealing Roe v. Wade. I mean, they're very conflicted. I mean, they're very, they have their beliefs, but they also think that's a bridge too far. And so I can't see them, I think they've, on this one, they may be the dog that caught the car. They've been preaching this for 40 years that this is what they were going to do. They're doing it. They're going way over the line, with Oklahoma being a great example of it. At fertilization, it's illegal. When frankly, the interesting thing there is it's illegal before not before the woman knows she's pregnant, but before she's actually, because it doesn't quite work the way
Yeah.
they talk about it. This is crazy.
But this is
and so
why
you
I said every teenage boy better start worrying, because they're coming for them next, because the old Monty Python, every sperm is sacred. This is next. This is where the road ends.
Yeah, no, they're going to come after contraceptive Plan B, all of it. It's all, and when they say no about everything that comes under rights of privacy. Oh, they won't do this, they won't do that. Are you kidding me? They're state legislatures that will again pass something like Oklahoma, really draconian laws on interracial marriage or whatever, and try to take it to the Supreme Court. I mean, that's what they're doing. I mean, that's what these states are doing on abortion. They're going to do it. These right-wing alt-right legislatures, a lot of them, are going to pass, law after law that challenges people's rights to privacy, from gay marriage, interracial marriage, contraception, all this, and try to take them up the ladder to the Supreme Court, just like they're doing with abortion right now. And with this court, God knows what they'll do.
So I hear you say this, and and I'm watching the same things that you are, and I'm thinking back to what Jim Clyburn said the other day about maybe we should probably get ready for, some era of. I'm pretty sure this is what he said. Get ready for some authoritarianism, because we seem to be heading down this very fascistic kind of road, where maybe I look at Ohio. You've got Jim Husted, the lieutenant governor, who's now sitting on a corporate board while a lieutenant governor. This is the melding of corporate and government issue right together, right in front of us.
Well, and that's why we did. My friends at the Lincoln Project also got together and launched the jointheunion.us, because it's going to take building a real broad-based pro-democracy coalition of former Republicans, independents, Democrats, to recognize that this is autocracy versus democracy. This isn't right versus left anymore. It's not Democrats versus Republicans. This is all of us standing up to this authoritarian threat. And the problem is, there's like this normalcy bias where people just don't see the threat. It's hard to believe that it could happen in America. And just like, and we've talked about this too, the same people who thought Donald Trump couldn't win here because that couldn't happen in America, the same people who thought January 6th that would never happen in our country, it did. Need to wake up. And I think Texas, I think what's going on with abortion, with how the Republicans are taking really moving to the extreme, and not taking any action at all to address gun violence or any of the pressing issues. I think hopefully that by the time November gets here, not hopefully, I actually believe that people are starting to wake up to the real threat here. I mean, when you have CPAC going to Hungary, Rick, embracing Viktor Orban, having him be a keynote speaker, urging the right to join in America, or literally calling on the right wing in the United States to join with him. And then the next day he declares martial law in Hungary. While there's still Republican members of Congress all at that conference there, just glowingly talking about this, this guy who has done everything he can to limit freedom of the press, limit expression. I mean, it is amazing how far. And by the way, that's the one thing, because that damn CPAC conference in Hungary got almost no coverage because it was because of rightfully reporting what was happening here in the United States. It didn't get much coverage at all. It fell below the radar. But that was some blood curdling garbage that was spewed out of there. It just should scare the living daylights out of everybody about what's next and where the right wants to take the country. You want to take a look, listen to Orban. By the way, and Tucker Carlson, remember, was preaching Orban's.
No, but here's the thing, Joe, and this is where what I think is equally frightening. I look at someone like Doug Mastriano, the gubernatorial candidate here in Pennsylvania. There are people who want that kind of leadership, want that kind of hatred in power, want that kind of strongman leadership to put those people in their place, and you fill in the blank of who those people are, and we know who they're talking about. The LGBT community, the minority groups, women, all the others that have been subcategorized that they don't want to say in polite conversation. But it's what they used to dog whistle. Right now, it's not dog whistle. They're screaming this stuff.
Yeah, they are. They're loud and proud on it, and and hopefully that loudness and how far they're going will wake up more people. And I think you're going to see more energy on the left.
It better be. You better pay attention, and you're right. Those CPAC speeches, frightening stuff, because coming to a neighborhood near us very soon if we don't vote this November. At least that's my thought. But, Joe, I appreciate the time, as always. Great work you guys do there at the Lincoln Project. Also, with the Join the Union group. I hope folks will check it out, jointheunion.us. Also, the podcast, The Joe Trippi Show. Make sure you grab that as well. Good stuff. Joe, I appreciate the time, man.
Yeah, great being with you, Rick. Anytime.
As always, good stuff. Love to hear your thoughts. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Tell me what you think. Again, check out that CPAC stuff. If you thought they were just crazy here at home, oh no, they've gone global. They've taken Crazy Pack on a whole nother scale. Quick break, right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people from the top. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1824. That day was the first time when women workers in the United States left their jobs and walked out on strike. It happened at the Slater Mill, part of New England's rapidly growing textile industry. The textile mill had been built in 1793, the first of its kind in the United States. Soon, other mills were built in the area. In the early 1820s, new watered power looms transformed the industry, bringing machines into the process of making cloth. The mill owners hired women to work on the looms. This was because the mill could pay young women less than men. Then the Slater owner decided to cut women's pay by 25%. At the same time, the mill expanded the workday by 1 hour for all workers. 102 women walked off the job and into history. They were joined by men and children workers from the mill. Other local community members and farmers supported the strike. Many in the area resented the mill and its dominance of the local landscape and economy. Soon the Pawtucket strike spread to 8 mills. The strike lasted for 1 week, and then the mill owners agreed to compromise with the workers over wages. Women workers had shown their power. 10 years later, hundreds of women textile workers in Lowell, Massachusetts followed as they went out on strike. Today, Slater Mill is a museum. In 2014, the site hosted exhibits called The Mother of All Strikes, commemorating.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
Welcome back to The Rick Smith Show. Check out our website, thericksmithshow.com. So it's being reported a bunch of some musical acts, some entertainers, I guess, are dropping out of the big gun convention down in Houston. And good on them. But look, they'll always have the guy who defecated on himself to get out of the draft. What's his name? Nugget. Ted Nugent, that's his name. There you go, Nugget. There's always Nugget. There you go. Come back to the Rick Smith Show. Got an email during the break. Max sent me an email. Said, I've heard you talk about how teachers are often on the front lines of a dysfunctional society. Yeah, I have. Quite often, they're the bottom of it. And they are often the fall boys and girls for it. He said, I've heard similar statements from every police officer I've met, and I think you know several police officers. Have you heard similar statements from them? Yeah, I mean, the cops and our teachers, they're the folks that we heap all of society's problems on. Absolutely. I'm not anti-police. I've never been. I've always said I am pro police. I am pro our men in blue and women in blue when they're not wrong. When you do wrong things, you're held accountable. We give you a lot of status. We give you a lot of leeway. We give you a lot of privilege. Don't abuse it. That's it. Do your job. Do the right thing. But we also expect you to do the right thing. And sadly, we've created too many moments where, let it roll downhill, whatever it is. I remember years ago, and this is one of those stories that just infuriates me, that one of the things that they did is they closed down, the state mental hospitals. And they, and look, you go, well, the state mental hospitals are horrible. They should have been closed. And you could make that argument. But I argue they didn't do anything to really, they just said, let go. And they didn't help the people really reacclimate into society well enough, in my view. And those people ended up homeless. They ended up going to jail. And what did we end up doing? What do we do with our homeless in this country? Oh, yeah. Instead of figuring out how to house them, how to help their whatever demons they have, mental illness, addiction, whatever, we lock them up because we don't know what else to do with them. And this is where, sadly, when you don't know what to do, call the police. We need to do a better job of dealing with this. And this is where I think Biden's ideas are helpful. We should be spending more money on mental illness and treatment, and more social workers to help deal with crisis intervention, so that it's not always the hammer that's coming in. Now you need policemen, but not in every classroom. And this is my problem. Should every school be an armed camp? Is this what we want? And the answer to me is no. I mean, should every educational institution in this country be a fortress because someone has a gun fetish? And that we can't have some sane, rational gun laws? I mean, stop and think about this for a second. We're talking about a minority of people in this country who no demand. I'm not. Talking about every child in this country walking through the doors, potentially not going home at some point. So I'm coming back to my idea, and I'm hoping that people will call their legislators and say, if you're not going to do anything on the gun issue, what we need every kid to at least have body armor, and like they have on cruises. We should have every classroom stocked with body armor, so that if the shooting starts, at least people can go get the body armor and put it on, and have drills on donning the body armor, because at least we'll feel somewhat safer. Yeah, it's a crazy idea, isn't it? It's almost as crazy as not doing anything about a problem that's right in front of us. Just my thoughts. I'd love to hear yours. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com.
KCAA Loma Linda, 10